Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Devontae, and I sacrifice my time so you don't have to. I gotta rant about this. So, I gave you guys an indication. I told you guys that I was gonna rant about this later on tonight, but I thought about it. I said it was either gonna be later on tonight or it was gonna be tomorrow. I got another video I have to rant about. I'll drop that in the morning time instead before I go to work. I want to talk about this right now because I want to put two videos back to back like this, especially when I'm not going to review Raw tomorrow. I'm probably only going to have the opportunity to put out one video. Unless something big breaks tomorrow, I'm only going to have the opportunity to put out one video. Let that actually be its own video. Let's talk about this video real quick. Swerve Strickland, because I feel like this is the most important topic. So, as you guys just noticed when you see my video uploaded, or if you watch anybody else's review, no sweat off my balls. Although, you know, suck my dick for not watching my review first. No, I love you. No, I don't. Swerve Strickland. He is no longer the AEW World Champion. Dropped the belt to Bryan Danielson in an excellent match. Probably match of the year, depending on how you look at it. Again, I'd probably say my top 3 favorite matches of the year, maybe top 5. I still have to go through it in my mind. We'll see how it, we'll see how it stands as the year goes on. I still think it's Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns in my opinion. Again, people may have their own personal perspective. My personal opinion, I still think it's Cody and Roman for WrestleMania. Nevertheless, though, he had an excellent match with Bryan Danielson. Best match of the night, by far, not even fucking close. Arguably best match of AEW so far this year, and arguably maybe even top 20 best matches in that entire company's lineage, period, point blank, right? And let me get the charitable stuff out of the way when it comes to Swerve Strickland. Every match that has taken place with him as world champion, he's knocked it out of the fucking park. I thought every match that Swerve Strickland did, whether it was capturing the belt against Samoa Joe, whether it was this match against Christian, whether it was this match against Will Ospreay, whether it was this match against Bryan Danielson in itself, whether, and it's not like to say that Swerve Strickland, as far as his title reigns are considered, like I said, haven't really been good. They've been excellent matches, right? But excellent matches only get you so far. And this is why I say about professional wrestling in general, whenever talking to someone who's a match mark, it's okay to have a specific favorable opinion in regards to your criteria when focusing on professional wrestling. We all have our specific criteria, what we like, right? Even within the match in itself, we have our specific style of wrestling that we prefer, right? Our specific era. Everything is all subjective when it comes to professional wrestling. But what isn't subjective is what we actually see directly in front of our faces, right? What isn't subjective is the numbers that correlate with what you see in professional wrestling overall. Now, there's a lot of things that you can blame in regards to Swerve Strickland and his entire run. I think focusing on Swerve Strickland, sometimes his character can be in, it can be out. I think when you try to play that role of being a tweener throughout your entire tenure, your entire run as a champion, you run the risk. You run the risk of being inconsistent in regards to your character, and it does sometimes kind of hurt you from a standing whenever you're inside a ring with a legitimate babyface or a legitimate heel, because it makes it confusing as to whether or not someone should get behind you. If someone's going to get behind you in that manner, and this is like the history of professional wrestling when it comes to tweeners overall, because it seems like there's more tweeners than there are legitimate heels, although people want to pretend as if the tweeners in themselves are actual heels. It's absolute bullshit. It confuses people, and the only people who typically get behind you are people who are already fans of yours, regardless of your alignment, right? But Swerve Strickland, in regards to his position in the company, as I notated in my title and my other video that just got uploaded a few minutes ago, or I guess a few hours ago by the time this uploads, Swerve Strickland was never the man. Swerve Strickland was never the guy. Always sympathetic, always identity politics is what it felt like to me, you know what I mean? Let's get something out of the way when it comes to Swerve Strickland. Swerve Strickland, as a character, I always felt had potential. I still think he has potential. I still don't even believe this is his only title run. He's going to get another shot at that World Championship as far as a reign is considered. Maybe not anytime soon, but I think he's going to get another shot at the World Championship. People forget, Swerve is still relatively young. He's like, what, 34 years old, 33 years old? He'll get another shot. And hopefully this run that he goes on, it's actually meaningful. The length of someone holding the championship belt means shit to me. Kofi Kingston had the championship belt for like 6 or 7 months, and it was a garbage reign, and it ended in a garbage way, and he's never seen the championship belt ever since. And look, you guys know me when it comes to identity politics. You guys know me when it comes to the race of a superstar. That has nothing to do with how I think about professional wrestling. I don't care who calls me an Uncle Tom or this or that and the third. I don't give a shit about that. My whole perspective has never been about equity. It's always been about meritocracy. Did you earn that shot? And when you earned that shot, how good was your reign? How good was you in regards to any aspect of any job? What did you do as far as how you conducted yourself in that position? Was it good or was it bad? I don't give a shit if you're black, white, girl, gay, doesn't matter to me. All that identity politics shit goes out the window. I don't give a fuck about that. I need to see results. And with Swerve Strickland, the results, some may say they vary. Some may say, like I said, subjectively, they have their own personal taste as far as how they felt about his reign. Some may say that his stories, in regards to how they feel about stories, in regards to how they think about stories, were good. But he was never the guy. That's subjective. He was never the guy. Every time he held the world championship, hell, for like the first couple of months, he couldn't even main event with the championship belt. Him winning the championship belt in itself was probably one of the few times I remember him having the championship shot. As a matter of fact, let's look at this real quick. I want to look at this per ratio in regards to Swerve Strickland and him being a world champion. Hang on for a second. We're going to actually do this in real time. He won the belt at Dynasty, right? AEW Dynasty 2004. We're going to, or 2024, excuse me. It was 2004. Oh, I will say 20 years later, right? 20 years ago, Benoit and Eddie kind of felt like, sympathetic champions rather than actual legitimate draws, right? And we see the results of that and how that's affected the future going forward as far as booking is considered. And I love Benoit and Eddie, just saying. But look at this for an example. His first main event, as far as at least contending for the championship belt, was with Samoa Joe. So he wins the championship belt after that, right? So let's go to the next pay-per-view. Double or Nothing, right? What did he main event that show? Did he? No, it was the Anarchy in the Arena match. He was actually going up against Christian Cage in the penultimate match before that match. Mind you, world champion. Forbidden Door. Let's see. I think that was the Will Ospreay match, right? Right? He got a main event, right? But before all that, I just want you guys to remember, he opened up the show as far as his inaugural speech, not on the day after he won the championship, or I guess the same week after. The week after is when he got his inaugural speech, right? His first match was against a jobber, if I remember correctly. But let's continue on. And mind you, can I just give a caveat with this match right here? Always remember, as far as this match is considered with Will Ospreay, always remember Will Ospreay said himself that he wanted to put him over to show that he was a team player. Not that Swerve Strickland was booked to win the match initially. That's not how Will Ospreay spelled it out. He spelled it out as if Tony was going to put the belt on Will Ospreay, and Will was like, nah, we're not going to do this to Swerve. We're not going to do that to Swerve. What does that tell you? Mind you, the next pay-per-view is All In. It's All In. So he won the belt in April, May, June, July, August. I don't know why I thought in my mind it was 6 months. No, he held the belt for 4 months. 4 months. 4 months. And he's only had, as far as reigns, as far as defending the belt is considered, from what it looks like, as far as pay-per-views are considered, 2. I guess 3 if you count Danielson, but he lost the belt. As far as successful reigns are considered, 2 championship defenses as far as successfully defended, at least from what I can remember. And mind you, prior to everything else, look at the Christian feud. I can't think did he main event not one time with the Christian feud at all? Not even just the not even just the pay-per-view in itself. I mean, just the entire feud. I'm trying to think, did he ever close out the show with Christian? I don't think so. I don't remember at the very least. Do you guys remember? I don't remember. Has Swerve ever had anything fulfilling in regards to storylines are considered, right? Can anyone think of that? I can't think of that. I'm trying to think to myself. No, nothing meaningful. Even the stuff that he was doing with Christian wasn't meaningful because they never main evented with it. The Will Ospreay stuff, what was the Will Ospreay feud even about? What was that even about? I'm trying to think. I can't think of anything. The Daniel Bryanson stuff, right? What I remember about the Bryan Danielson stuff, and mind you, this has only been built up for about 2 or 3 weeks, right? Mind you, they had a whole month to build this up. They took about 2 or 3 weeks to finally get started after Bryan Danielson won the initial Owen Hart tournament. They finally got into the groove of building this shit up like 3 weeks ago. And it was all about Bryan Danielson and his retirement. Not about Swerve Strickland and his title defense. Bryan Danielson and him, whether or not he was going to retire. So they built the entire match around Bryan Danielson, gave him a nice promo package, gave him Green Day, all this stuff. But what about Swerve? He was the forgotten champion. He was never the guy. I can't stress this enough. Because it's already bad enough that his reigns in themselves were never really that important in the greater context of the entire show in itself. Let's talk about the things that overshadowed Swerve Strickland during that entire reign, right? We're talking about things like the botched elite stuff with AEW. We're talking about the botched Tony Khan taking a fucking spot with his neck in the neck brace. All that bullshit that people have now probably forgotten at this point, right? Or do you want to talk about going into Double or Nothing, right? Was that the show with Edge and Christian Cage, or Edge and Malachi Black that everybody talked about afterwards because Edge went full dumb fucking broke his leg? Huh? That was the show, right? Wait. Let me go back a little tiny bit. Let's talk about this show in itself. Because I think most people will probably tell you from a feud standpoint, best feud of the night as far as it being consistently shown throughout the shows was probably Mariah May and Toni Storm. And in my opinion, that was overrated in itself. Or maybe we talk about the actual stars of the show, the ones who are opening up the majority of these shows building up to the pay-per-view. Put out a whole video on this. The guy who obviously Tony Khan sees as the number one star in his company, Will Ospreay, MJF, those guys taking over the entire show multiple times, probably had the most consistent feud and build. And mind you, that's just from a kayfabe sense. Let's not talk about, the real life circumstances of MJF and Britt Baker taking all the heat away from the show in itself. That takes away from Swerve Strickland. Outside fixtures always being the things that put all these feuds in harm's way. MJF can tell you about that. Ironically enough, he was the one doing it this time, but typically he was the one in position getting his heat taken away from him, right? Did it to Swerve Strickland. Did anyone ever take Swerve Strickland seriously as a world champion? As time goes on and you think about it, he always felt like a secondary champion. Like, that was my main contention with CM Punk as a world champion when he first won it in 2011. Not the Money in the Bank stuff, but his first one when he had the belt, or I guess his third run when he had the championship belt for like a year and a half or something like that, from like Survivor Series in 2011 to like the Royal Rumble, if I'm not mistaken. He always felt like he was playing second fiddle to John Cena. But at least that's an excuse. It's John Cena. Still terrible, still horrible, but I get it. It's John Cena. Generational superstar John Cena. Who in the fuck right now in AEW feels like they actually deserve that position to usurp everything that the world champion was doing at that moment? Anybody? Not MJF, not Will Ospreay. We went over how big of a fucking rating draw that they are. I say that in an unironic way, by the way. So everything that usurped all the energy from Swerve Strickland had no business doing it. Yet they did it. Not just everything that was happening in the company in themselves, but everything as far as the outside stuff that was happening. He just never felt like a real world champion. Felt like a transitional champion the entire time. Almost to the extent, like I said, it felt like Tony Khan just did it for the sake of saying that he had a black world champion. Yeah, I'm gonna go there. Like I said, I'm not a guy that likes to dwell within identity politics, especially when talking about professional wrestling, because I feel it's done to death. But now that I'm seeing how it played out, I'm willing to go there now. I'm actually willing to go there. I feel like Tony Khan only did it simply to say that he had a black world champion. Simply to shut up the naysayers. Simply to kind of cover for himself if anyone were to actually call him a racist. Now, Tony Khan has never been a racist. That's a fucking dumb thing to say. But I'm not the progressive out there to fucking bring that up to most people. People within AEW's camp, the majority of his audience will call him out for being racist, right? He just did it just to shut people up. Just to say he had a black world champion. And look, you got your wish. You got your black world champion. You kept the belt on him long enough where you can kind of say to yourself, well, guys, look, I did it. I did it. Never mind what that does to Swerve Strickland. No, mind you, I think Swerve Strickland is still in good company. I still think him having his feud with Heyman, Adam Page going forward, kind of obvious that's the path that they're going to go down, going maybe into the winter season, I guess. That seems like that's the obvious play that they're going to go towards, right? Go forward with. Which is ironic, because when you think about it, going forward, kind of feels like this is going to probably be the biggest feud currently going on in AEW. So it makes me laugh. It's like Swerve Strickland as a world champion He was never put into the position to ever be the guy who carried the ball for real, right? It's like giving your little brother the controller that's not really plugged in to make him feel like he's actually doing something, right? But in reality, you're the one playing the game. That's what it kind of felt like to me. He's a little brother with the controller not plugged in, world champion. It feels like, ironically enough, he's not good enough to be a world champion. But golly gee willikers, he's good enough to put over people. He's good enough to give you a good match. He's good enough to give you a quality story when you need him to. Just not with the world championship. We need a placeholder in order to have someone, hold that belt down while everybody else is doing the more important stuff. Now, the cynic in me can probably sit back and say to myself that has more to do with the fact that Tony Khan's a terrible fucking booker, always has and always will be, has no clue how to book his world championship belt. Like I said, his world championship belt, not just a placeholder, but it feels like a babysitter, an excuse for the parents to go out to go do whatever the fuck they want to do, while the world championship is babysitting the current holder. Not like, the person who's actually watching over the house in itself, like the, older sister or the older brother or the older sibling in general, right? Nah, they're perfectly fine. They're going to be able to take care of themselves. You, on the other hand, no, we need a babysitter. We need someone to watch over you. That's the world championship right now, right? We need someone to watch over the world championship, right? We can't have the world championship stand on its own. Because for the world championship to actually stand on its own, that means, golly gee willikers, everything else that comes after it, why care? Who cares? Why care? No. We have to give attention to these guys right here because the world champion is going to take care of all we need in regards to giving this guy credibility. Never mind the fact that your world championship, because you've done this so many times, has no credibility. And you continue that lineage of the world championship having no credibility because of the way you book Swerve Strickland versus how you book everybody else who continue the same lineage. I can't think, and people like to use this as some type of coping mechanism. I don't know what the fuck you guys are talking about. This guy's a good, and it's funny, I see Kenny Omega's a good world champion. Says who? Do I have to go back and talk? It sucks I don't have my Millennial Smart channel anymore, bruh. The amount of rants I used to go on about Kenny Omega never showing up with the world championship belt, actually getting there and mid-carding himself, having lame-ass triple threat matches in the middle of the card while guys are actually main eventing the show, having lame-ass book matches like the match with him going into the match with Heyman Adam Page, the off and on feud that no one gave a shit about for the most part, that you can't even dignify by giving me a simplistic story to see where we're going with here. Oh, well, Devontae, I don't think you know this. Back in 2019, 2020, whatever fucking year it was, Heyman Adam Page was a fuck up. He was a drunk. Okay, and how did that play into the story going forward when Kenny Omega turned heel? Or do you want to talk about the 5-minute matches that happened, or maybe the 10-minute promos that had commercial breaks in between when Kenny Omega was going back and forth on the microphone with jobbers and he himself didn't know how to fucking talk? Give me a fucking break, bruh. The first world champion was probably the best world champion in Chris Jericho, because at least he got TV time, at least he had character at the time, at least he himself was more of a pleasant to watch at the fucking time. Everybody else was fucking garbage. Everybody else barely main evented as world champion. Everybody else had goofy storylines like MJF, for an example. Please miss me with the nonsense. Swerve Strickland is nothing more than a part of the mechanism that continues on the tradition of the AEW World Championship being one of the worst book titles as far as a world championship is considered in the history of professional wrestling. But that still doesn't take away from the fact that Swerve Strickland forever will be, at this point, unless something happens in the future, will be known as the worst AEW World Champion of all time. It's so sad to look at him as a champion. Because never mind all the identity politics stuff I talked about earlier on. Never mind all the stuff that goes along with Swerve Strickland and his title run as far as him being minuscule in the grand scheme of things. It's bad. It's so fucking terrible about his run. Think about this for a second. That whenever you talk about AEW, and correct me if I'm wrong, even the IWC nerds never do this, right? Whenever I talk about the AEW stuff in regards to reviewing the ratings, the viewership number, back in the days, it was very, very simplistic. It was very easy. The person who's holding the world championship was always given the reason as to why the show didn't draw, right? We were even doing that half the time with some of the Kenny Omega runs, or MJF last year when I called him the worst world champion of all time, not because I felt that way, but because the viewership number said otherwise, right? Not one time did we say that about Swerve Strickland. He was so inconsequential as a world champion. Everybody, including Meltzer, blaming other television shows, blaming the fucking weather. Someone slipped on a goddamn snail. My dog ate my homework. All this other shit. Even the stuff that we were combating with those excuses being lame as fuck, like the creative of AEW, right? All this stuff. Not one time did the onus ever go back to the world champion. Doesn't that speak volumes to everybody how bad of a world champion he was? He was such a terrible world champion. When the shows never drew, when the shows got even worse, not one time did anyone even turn and say that was Swerve Strickland's fault. He couldn't even have the courtesy of being blamed for why the show was bad. That's how inconsequential he was. He couldn't even be blamed for the ratings being terrible. What does that tell you? And that's just not me. That's not just you guys. You guys never blame Swerve Strickland for that. I never blame Swerve Strickland for that. Meltzer never blamed him for that. Because what is there to blame when you're clearly not the man? Play with it, man. But maybe in the future, like I said, he will get that championship belt back. Hopefully he's in a better position. Hopefully he's not just there as a placeholder just to say you got a black world champion in your lineage. No, people can't talk shit about you anymore in your mind. Hopefully when he wins the world championship again in the future, things will fall in line. He'll be shown throughout the show, given main event spots consistently, being the focal primary of every fucking show that takes place going into AEW like, you know, a regular world champion. Then again, could just be a pipe dream. My name is Devontae. Almost said millennial smart there. My name is Devontae, and I'll be catching you guys later. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. And in the words of CM Punk, tell me where I'm telling lies. Deuces, P. Ice.